I've had faith in God for as long as I can remember. As soon as I could grasp the concepts of the world around me, I learned that faith was the cornerstone of existence. My mother would often tell me, "We are nothing without God. Remember that, Jonah." Those words stuck with me into my adolescence, and by the time I was a teenager, I felt a profound commitment to devote my life to His service. Entering the priesthood felt less like a decision and more like a destiny I was meant to fulfill. I devoted many years at the seminary, delving into scripture, theology, and church doctrine. I learned prayers by heart, carried out rituals, and embraced the role of guiding God's flock. When I was ordained, everything seemed to align perfectly. I felt a sense of purpose, a clear mission. For many years, I ministered in a small Mexican town, deeply woven with faith. The locals trusted me deeply, seeking my counsel, guidance, and solace during tough times. I baptized their newborns, officiated their weddings, and blessed their homes. Outwardly, I embodied the ideal priest, but internally, something was amiss. I kept my doubts to myself. How could I share them? A priest is expected to be a steadfast beacon of faith. Yet, in those silent moments alone in the church, with candles casting shadows on ancient walls, my doubts crept in. Despite my daily prayers, devoutly leading Mass, and upholding traditions, I questioned my connection with God. Was I genuinely guiding my congregation closer to Him, or merely upholding an institution? I wrestled with these doubts, dismissing them as mere weaknesses, yet they lingered persistently. Then one night, everything shifted. It was an ordinary evening. The town was tranquil, with most residents settled at home. I had completed my daily prayers and was sitting alone in the church, facing the altar. The only sounds were the crickets chirping in the distance and the soft whisper of the wind through the cracks in the old wooden doors. I gazed up at the large crucifix above the altar, looking into the eyes of Jesus on the cross. What am I missing? I wondered silently. Why do I feel so distant from you? With a heavy heart, I closed my eyes and murmured a quiet prayer, seeking guidance or clarity, anything to alleviate the sense of emptiness gnawing at me. Then, suddenly, it struck. Initially, it was a mild pressure in my chest, not alarming but uncomfortable enough to make me shift in my seat. I thought perhaps I had been sitting too long, but the pressure quickly intensified, spreading like fire through my ribs. I gasped and clutched at my chest as the pain radiated down my arm. In that moment, it felt as though all strength was draining from my body. My vision blurred, the candlelight warping into elongated, surreal streaks. I attempted to rise from the pew, but my legs failed me. Breathing shallow and head spinning, the world seemed to tilt dangerously. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, overpowering all other sounds. The stark realization washed over me. I was dying. There, in the very sanctuary I had devoted my life to, I was alone, unable to even call for help. In a desperate attempt to stay connected to the world, I reached out, my fingers grazing the altar, hoping it might anchor me to life. But my strength ebbed rapidly. My knees gave way, and I collapsed onto the cold tile floor, my head hitting the surface with a thud that barely registered in my fading senses. The only sensations that consumed me were the oppressive weight on my chest and the fiery pain in my lungs as I gasped for breath. I wanted to utter a final prayer or call for help, but no words would form. My vision began to close in, my thoughts dwindling to a slow, fading echo. Then, everything stilled. No pain, no sound, just an engulfing void. I'm not sure how long I was lost in that void. It could have been moments or hours as time ceased to exist. Gradually, something shifted. A peculiar feeling enveloped me, as if I was being lifted, not in body, but in a way entirely unfamiliar to me. Awareness of the room returned, but from a new perspective. It was then that I saw my own body, motionless on the floor below. I was no longer within it. That was the moment I realized I was dead, the moment everything turned to black. I had thought that would be the end, my mind void, my body devoid of sensation, as if all the burdens, pain, and noise of life had dissipated in a blink. Yet what unfolded was beyond my wildest imaginations. Initially, there was a faint sensation, akin to floating in water, weightless and detached. Gradually, the enveloping darkness began to recede, transforming into something else entirely. Though I lacked a physical body as I knew it, I could sense myself ascending, moved by an unseen force. I did not fight it. I wasn't even sure if I could. That's when I saw myself, lying motionless on the church's cold tile floor. My body appeared small, fragile, like a shell left behind. My arms lay limply by my sides, and the dim candlelight cast flickering shadows over my pale face. I could even make out the faint smear of blood on the floor where my head had struck. The scene was surreal. There I was, observing my own still form, yet I was not seized by panic. Contrary to what one might expect, I was enveloped in a profound calm, as though I had stepped beyond the world's chaos. I remained suspended there, watching from above, unable to move any closer or further away. The church, once a warm and familiar sanctuary where I had devoted years to prayer, preaching, and service, now felt strangely alien. My perception of it had shifted not only in angle, but in atmosphere as well. It was during this altered sense of place that I noticed something unsettling, a shadow. It danced just beyond the reach of the candlelight, flitting between the pews. Initially, it seemed merely a trick of light, but it soon became clear that it was approaching, and it was not alone. More shadows emerged from the darkness, seeping out like tendrils of smoke. They moved in eerie, fluid motions, their forms constantly changing and swirling as they drew nearer. There were no discernible faces, only the dark shapes of shadows, yet their presence was palpable. The air around me grew dense and chill, the shadows seeming to exert a pressure, pressing down on me despite my disembodied state. The brief calm I had experienced was swiftly replaced by an escalating dread. These shadows did not communicate with words, yet I heard their whispers, soft and chilling, like a breeze whispering secrets from afar. Although their words were indiscernible, the menacing tone sent shivers through me. They exerted a pull, not physical, but undeniably forceful, like invisible hands grasping at my essence. They were drawing me away from the altar's light, deeper into the shadows. I tried to resist, but it was akin to swimming against a relentless current. The more I struggled, the more insistent the pull became. My mind spiraled into panic as I realized the futility of my efforts. I was powerless to stop them. Was this the end of my journey? All the sermons I had preached about spiritual battles suddenly took on a profound new meaning. I had spoken of such things, but I had never truly understood them until this moment. These shadows were more than mere darkness. They were sentient beings with a clear intent. They were after me. Desperate for help, I tried to call out, but with no voice and no body, I was powerless, left only to watch as the shadows closed in, their whispers intensifying into a deep, ominous drone. Just as the darkness seemed poised to consume me, a miraculous change occurred. A light appeared. Initially, it was just a dim spark in the distance, but it quickly intensified, slicing through the encroaching shadows like a sharp blade. The darkness shrank back, the shadows retreating with a sibilant hiss as the light grew, its brilliance expanding rapidly. The oppressive weight that had been dragging me down vanished, replaced by a warmth so profound and all-encompassing that it felt like nothing I had experienced before. This light wasn't merely around me, it permeated me. infusing every part of my essence with a radiant, overwhelming energy. Yet, despite its power, the light was not harsh. It was gentle and enveloping, as if it were cradling me in a warm embrace. I was utterly captivated, unable to divert my gaze or focus on anything else. This time, as I felt myself being drawn toward the light, I surrendered to the pull. As I drifted closer, the shadowy whispers vanished, giving way to a silence that was almost melodic. This quiet was peaceful and soothing, yet it brimmed with anticipation, as if something remarkable lay just beyond. Nearing the light, I sensed a presence within it, not merely an illumination, but something vibrant, imbued with love and formidable power. It beckoned to me. For the first time since my departure from the physical, I was not adrift. I felt no fear. Instead, there was only an irresistible attraction to something vastly superior to myself. In that moment, clarity dawned on me. This was no mere happenstance or a figment of imagination. I was being pulled toward a divine encounter, one that promised profound transformation. The light drew me ever nearer, bathing me in a warmth and peace that surpassed all prior experiences. As I ventured deeper, I became acutely aware of an overwhelming presence, so majestic and profound that it was clear I was nearing an entity beyond any earthly understanding. There he was, at the heart of the luminance, a figure both radiant and distinct, as if he were both merged with and the origin of the light itself. His visage was clear, yet it seemed to convey depths beyond my visual comprehension. His expression was suffused with love and compassion, yet underlined by an authority so potent that it rendered all else trivial. I halted, if such a term could apply. I merely existed, suspended in wonder. "Gabriel," he spoke. The way he uttered my name transcended any earthly sound. It wasn't merely heard, it resonated as a call, an intimate recognition, as if he was communicating directly with my essence. "Gabriel," he repeated, and the resonance of it this time carried a profound weight, not of judgment or wrath, but of undeniable truth. Words failed me. What response could possibly suffice? My entire life had been dedicated to speaking of Jesus, sharing his teachings, urging others to embrace his path. Yet now, faced with his actual presence, I found myself utterly unprepared. As he moved closer, the intensity of his love was nearly overwhelming. It wasn't earned or deserved. It simply existed, profound and unconditional. "You have served me," he said, his voice both gentle and firm. "You have dedicated your life to my work. But Gabriel, do you truly know me?" The question struck me with the force of a thunderclap, sending my thoughts scrambling for an answer. I had spent decades immersed in scripture, leading mass, teaching others about his life and his sacrifice. Surely I knew him. Yet standing there, directly before Jesus, a terrible realization dawned on me. I didn't truly know him, not in the way I had always believed. I managed to utter his name, Jesus, though my words sounded feeble and empty in my own ears. He regarded me with an expression that mingled sorrow with hope, as if he already knew my inner turmoil, but awaited my own acknowledgement of it. "You know about me," he continued, his voice tender yet incisive. "You are familiar with the stories, the rituals, the scriptures, but have you truly known me? Have you sought my heart, or merely adhered to my commandments?" His words pierced through me, sharp as a knife. My life had been devoted to the rituals and structures of the church, to adherence to its doctrines. I had judged my faith by my compliance with these standards, but had I genuinely pursued a relationship with him? Had I ever truly opened my heart to know him beyond the sacred texts? As the full impact of his words dawned on me, tears began to well in my eyes. I reflected on all the sermons I had delivered, the guidance I had offered, all the times I had urged others to trust in Jesus, even when I had been too apprehensive to fully embrace that trust myself. "I don't know," I whispered, my voice quaking. "I thought I was doing your will. I thought I was serving you." Jesus extended his hand and gently placed it on my shoulder. The warmth of his touch brought both solace and a profound sense of realization. "You have done many good things, Gabriel," he affirmed. "But faith is not solely about your actions. It's about your relationship with me. It's about knowing me, loving me, and allowing that love to influence everything you do." Tears freely flowed down my cheeks as I collapsed to my knees before him. "I'm sorry," I choked out, my voice thick with emotion. "I thought I was doing enough. I thought I was enough. But now I see that I missed the most essential part." Jesus knelt down before me, his face inches from mine, his eyes brimming with boundless love. "It is not too late, Gabriel," he assured me softly. "You can truly know me. You can walk with me, not just for me." His words cut through the fog of despair that had enveloped me, offering a beacon of hope. For the first time, I grasped the distinction between the faith I had practiced and the faith he was inviting me to, a faith centered not on rituals or my role, but on him. "Teach me," I pleaded, gazing up at him through my tears. "Teach me how to know you." Jesus' smile warmed the space between us, and it seemed as if the light enveloping us intensified, becoming even more luminous. "This is just the beginning, Gabriel," he said, "but there is so much more for you to see." As he spoke, the world around us began to transform once more, and I felt myself being drawn further into his divine presence. The light deepened, layer upon layer, hinting at meanings and revelations yet to be fully understood. Jesus stood before me, his figure steady and commanding, and I sensed he was about to reveal something crucial, something transformative. "Gabriel," his voice was soft yet decisive, "you have devoted your life to my service, yet there's a deeper truth you must witness." Before I could utter a word, the light shifted again, and suddenly the comforting glow was gone. Instead, I found myself observing scenes from my own life, as though peering through a window. These were not mere recollections, they were critical moments of my ministry, instances I believed I was fulfilling God's plan. Viewing them now from his perspective, I noticed details I had previously overlooked. In one scene, I found myself consecrating a family's new home. The mother, clutching her child close, her gaze brimming with thankfulness as I showered them with holy water and offered prayers. At that moment, pride swelled in me. I believed I was the conduit of God's grace in their lives. But now, revisiting that scene, I saw the hurried motions of my blessing, my mind preoccupied with the appointments that lay ahead. I had not truly engaged with their fears or their dreams. The ritual was performed, yet my presence, my genuine connection, was absent. The vision shifted to a sermon I delivered in the church, the benches brimming with congregants while I fervently preached on faith and compliance. This sermon, a familiar refrain, I thought stirred the faithful towards devout paths. But now, viewing it anew, I caught sight of faces I had overlooked, expressions marred by skepticism, sorrow, and a yearning for something more. They sought not the rigidity of doctrines, but a touch of something profound, something tangible. And I, ensnared in the mechanics of my preaching, had failed to see their true needs. As the visions unfolded, tears gathered in my eyes. Scene after scene painted a picture of my ministry dominated by ceremonial practices and external displays of belief, all the while neglecting the profound human needs of those I aimed to guide. The rituals were not misplaced, they held their significance, but I had let them overshadow the essence of my calling, placing them above the core of Jesus' message. "Do you see now, Gabriel?" Jesus' voice pierced the haze of my emotions, clear and resonant. "It's not about the actions you perform, it's about the love you embody. The rituals should guide you to me, but often they become the endpoint instead of the pathway." I nodded, words failing me. The truth in his statement resonated deeply, anchoring me anew to my vocation. I had long equated being a diligent priest with strict adherence to the rules, leading ceremonies, and upholding the church's traditions. Now I realized how superficial my understanding had been. Jesus' words flowed again. "The church isn't just an institution, Gabriel. It is my living body. It's comprised of the people who seek me, who love me, and who cherish each other. It isn't crafted from stone or wood, but from hearts open to my grace." As he spoke, the visions shifted, now highlighting instances where I had genuinely manifested his love, often without even realizing it. I saw myself beside an elderly woman mourning her husband, my hand in hers as she wept. I was there in a hospital, administering last rites to a young man, his relatives surrounding him, their expressions raw with grief. Another scene showed me assisting a destitute farmer fix his roof post-storm, my hands rough and blistered from the effort. "Gabriel, these were the moments when you truly knew me," Jesus spoke gently, "not by your actions, but by the way you loved. These were the times when your heart walked in step with mine." Watching these scenes unfold, I was struck by an overwhelming sense of both awe and shame. Awe at how love could illuminate the darkest times, and shame that I had let that love lead me so infrequently. For each instance of genuine connection, there were countless times I had fallen short, letting the demands of my role eclipse the essence of my mission. Jesus moved closer, his eyes brimming with kindness. "I do not blame you, Gabriel. I understand your heart and the weight you have carried. Now that you see the truth, it presents you with a decision." "A decision," I echoed, my voice quaking. "Yes," he continued. "You have two paths. You can keep going as you are, doing good but not fully knowing me, or you can shed the traditions that constrain you and fully embrace my love. Lead others to me not through mere ceremony, but by living a life that mirrors my grace." His words weighed heavily on me, and I realized there was no going back. I could no longer ignore what he had revealed. I couldn't forget the truth. I had always thought my duty as a priest was to preserve the church, but I now understood it was about something much more profound, guiding people to Jesus, helping them experience him as I was beginning to. "Now I choose you," I declared, emotion choking my voice. "I want to truly know you, to live my life for you." Jesus' smile warmed the space around us, his presence brighter than before. "Then follow me, Gabriel, and trust that I will lead you at every step." As he spoke, warmth flooded my chest, bringing with it a peace and purpose I had never felt before. The doubts, fears, and questions that had long haunted me began to dissolve. They weren't completely gone, but they no longer ruled over me. This was the dawn of something new, something genuine. The light around us shifted once more, signaling that my journey was far from over. There was still more to see, more to understand. Yet, for the first time, I was not afraid. I was ready. Surrounded by this settling light, I stood, still processing the visions I had witnessed. The burden of my life, my choices, my faith, and my doubts weighed on me, yet clarity cut through the confusion. For the first time, I truly grasped what I had been missing, and my heart yearned to grasp this truth forever. Jesus approached, his eyes reflecting a mix of love and intention. I sensed that a pivotal moment was near. one that would alter my life's path completely. "Gabriel," he said, his tone both firm and soft, "what you have witnessed is not meant solely for you. It is for them, for all who are seeking, for the lost, and for those who have misplaced their faith." I nodded, overwhelmed by uncertainty. A flurry of questions overwhelmed me. How could I, a man so entangled in rituals and traditions, guide others to a deeper understanding? How was I to embody the profound truths he had revealed? It seemed as if Jesus could sense my turmoil before I even voiced it. "You're not called to be perfect," he assured me gently. "You are called to be faithful. It won't be your strength that sustains this mission. It will be mine." With a gentle lift of his hand, the atmosphere transformed once more. Suddenly, the serene, glowing space vanished, and I found myself gazing down upon our world, not in terms of geography or boundaries, but through a lens that revealed hearts, lives, and souls. Everywhere I looked, I saw people engaged in their daily lives, their expressions marked by a silent despair. Some struggled under the weight of poverty, others with isolation or loss. Even those surrounded by material comforts seemed profoundly empty. The scenarios varied, but the underlying theme was consistent: a deep yearning for something genuine, something substantial. I observed churches, some bustling with congregants, others eerily quiet. In too many, the focus lay on maintaining rituals, reciting prayers, and singing hymns. Traditions were preserved, yet I sensed a stark void where true connection should have been. A facade that was aesthetically pleasing but devoid of real significance. Then, amidst this vision, I noticed beacons of true faith shining through the gloom. A mother tenderly praying over her sleeping child, a young man choosing forgiveness over resentment, a stranger extending a hand of kindness to another. These instances were modest, often overlooked by the world, yet they were immensely powerful. They embodied the lessons Jesus was imparting to me, that true faith isn't about showy gestures or strict adherence to ritual, but about love, humility, and genuine connections. As the vision unfolded, my heart swelled with sorrow for those ensnared by mere tradition, believing adherence to rules was sufficient without ever experiencing the transformative love of Jesus. His earlier words, "It is not too late," now resonated deeply. These people weren't beyond hope. They simply needed guidance toward the truth. "Do you see, Gabriel?" Jesus' voice pierced through the vision, pulling me back to the present. "This is the world I came to save, and it is the world I am calling you to serve." Tears cascaded down my cheeks as I faced him once more. "But how?" I stammered, my voice shaky with emotion. "How can I reach them? How can I help them see what I've seen?" Jesus' smile was both encouraging and filled with conviction. "Live the truth you've discovered," he instructed. "Show them my love through your actions, not merely with words. Walk beside them as an equal, not from above. And remind them that their value lies not in their deeds, but in their identity in me." His words took root in my heart, planting themselves like seeds in nourishing ground. Although unsure of the means, I was certain of my mission. I could not turn away from it. The world needed this truth, and I was chosen to deliver it. Before I could respond, Jesus lifted his hand, and the surrounding light intensified, enveloping us both. I felt his hand press gently against my chest, over my heart. Warmth spread instantly throughout my body, infusing me with energy and peace. "Gabriel," he spoke with authority softened by care, "you are not alone. I will be with you in every step, every word, and every moment. Trust in me, and I will lead you." As his hand rested there, a transformation occurred within me. It was as though a veil had been lifted, granting me a clarity about the world and my role within it, that I had never before possessed. The doubts and fears that once constrained me still lingered, but they were now overshadowed by a profound sense of love, hope, and resolve. The light surrounding us started to change again, signaling the end of this profound encounter. I was about to be sent back to my earthly existence, to resume my life and the sacred mission Jesus had entrusted to me. Just before the light completely receded, Jesus imparted one last piece of wisdom. Remember, Gabriel, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, and I have always known you. His words lingered as the brilliance diminished, and I felt a gentle pull, drawing me back to the reality I had momentarily left. The tranquility of his presence persisted, cushioning me even as I sensed the familiar weight of my physical form. Uncertain of what lay ahead, but fortified by a transformative assurance, I knew one truth remained unaltered. I was profoundly changed. With a mission now placed before me, I was resolute. I could not, would not fail him. As I regained consciousness, the first sensation was the distant murmur of voices. At first, they seemed to echo from afar, growing gradually louder and more distinct, filled with urgency and concern. My body was weary, my chest burdened, yet I was unmistakably alive. I blinked open my eyes, the stark fluorescent lighting above momentarily blinding me. It took a few seconds to recognize my surroundings. A hospital room with machines softly beeping around me and a cool liquid flowing through the IV into my vein. A nurse peered down at me, her expression shifting to one of relief as she noticed my eyes open. "Father," she whispered, "you're awake." Awake. The word resonated deeper than usual. My awakening was not just of the body. It was a spiritual renewal unlike anything I had experienced before. The events that had transpired, the brilliant light, my profound encounter with Jesus, the charge he had bestowed upon me, remained as clear in my mind as the very room I lay in. As the nurse moved aside, a doctor approached, rapidly detailing my medical state. He mentioned a heart attack, how close I had been to death, and how surviving was nothing short of miraculous. I nodded, half listening, my thoughts preoccupied with the divine messages I had received. After the doctor departed, I found myself alone, gazing upwards at the sterile hospital ceiling, feeling the full gravity of my experiences settle over me. I had died, stood before Jesus, and been granted a new lease on life, not just to exist, but to live with a renewed purpose. The subsequent days passed in a haze. My parish friends visited, offering prayers and words of encouragement, declaring me fortunate, blessed to have survived. I offered them smiles and thanks, yet within I recognized this was not mere fortune, it was a profound calling. As soon as my strength returned, I began to share what I had encountered. I recounted to my fellow priests the visions of light and truth Jesus had revealed to me, emphasizing that true faith transcends titles and traditions. It's about a genuine connection with him. While most offered polite nods and dismissed my experiences as delusions from my ordeal, suggesting such visions were common in near-death scenarios, their skepticism couldn't dampen my conviction. I knew what I had witnessed was authentic. Among the doubters, however, there were believers. Some parishioners and friends listened with rapt attention, awe evident in their expressions. One woman, voice quivering with emotion, asked, "Father, do you believe Jesus is truly calling us towards a different path?" "Yes," I affirmed confidently to her. "He is summoning us not to merely adhere to rituals without understanding, but to truly know him, to embody love, humility, and compassion." This exchange sparked the onset of my revitalized ministry. Upon my return to the church, I was certain that things could not revert to their former state. Leading Mass and conducting rituals without real engagement no longer sufficed. My heart had transformed, compelling me to align my actions with this new insight. I shifted my focus to genuinely engaging with the congregation, attentive to their hardships, and accompanying them on their spiritual paths. I dedicated more time to the marginalized, the sick, the impoverished, the forsaken, not only offering prayers, but also manifesting Christ's love through tangible acts of kindness. My sermons evolved. I ceased emphasizing obedience to the church as the pinnacle of faith. Instead, I talked about forming a personal relationship with Jesus, about his desire to connect with us intimately. I urged the community to seek him not solely through prescribed ceremonies, but by opening their hearts. Some embraced the transformation, feeling an unprecedented closeness to God. Others held firm to the customs they had always known, and that was perfectly acceptable. My role was not to coerce change, but to guide, love, and mirror the truths revealed to me by Jesus. The journey was challenging. There were days weighed down by doubt and opposition, days I questioned my effectiveness or feared I was not fulfilling my mission. Yet during those times, I clung to his promise, "You are not alone, I will guide you." These words anchored me. Months went by, and the transformation within the parish was striking. Those who had once felt estranged from their faith now discovered newfound meaning in their relationship with God. Families bonded more deeply, neighbors showed greater kindness, and the church evolved from a mere structure to a vibrant community. Personally, I encountered a peace unlike any other. The doubts that once plagued me dissipated, replaced by a serene confidence in Christ's love. I no longer gauged my value by my duties as a priest or how precisely I conducted the rituals. I understood that my true worth lay in him, and that realization was sufficient. One quiet evening, sitting in the deserted church with only the gentle glow of candles for company, I reflected on the night I had collapsed in agony. I recalled the pain, the fear, and the enveloping darkness. But above all, the light, the intense, brilliant light of his presence. I realized then that faith was never about titles or traditions. It had always been about him, knowing him, loving him, and allowing his love to transform every aspect of our lives. As I knelt before the altar, I offered a soft prayer, not for myself, but for those I was called to serve. Lord, help me to reveal to them what you have revealed to me. Guide me in leading them to you. In that moment, I felt his presence once more, as vivid and potent as it had been on that transformative night. I recognized then that I was precisely where I needed to be, fulfilling the purpose I had been given. The journey was far from finished, but I was prepared for whatever lay ahead.